who's next? Rebecca. Now, again, really, I think something that we should point to is just the very interesting solutions that you as a group have come up with in this rather peculiar space. You know, not often that you put an office on a farm to have an art show. That can't be a very big canon of art history. That there can't be that many shows that have done this. So you've had to come up with unique solutions. You know, not least we'll talk a bit about this when we start moving over there, about how some of the 2D work has been factored onto these stretchers. And these shelves, I mean, do you want to talk a bit about sort of how you came upon this way of putting it in, Rebecca?
Well, these shelves were already in the space, and we were trying to think of ways of putting work up without drilling anything into the walls. So I wondered if I could make use of the shelf for my work. And as my work has been becoming more three-dimensional, it actually works really well.
I mean, I love these little figures. I hope if you got they're incredibly subversive, and they're very funny, and I think there's a lovely way. I mean, the level of detail that you've gone into making these things is great. I think the way that you walk around it, in some ways, it's a composition very paintable. Actually, it's almost like 3D painting that you've gone with. Was that your intention?
Yes, I think in a way. I've tried to make these little characters and the colours with them work throughout the whole thing, and these little extra materials, making sure there's enough of them so that it all comes together.
And was there, I mean, just out of interest, these bits here, they're kind of different. Is there any relevance to those ones? Is the sort of, it looks like the Queen or something when in her younger days dancing, and then you have these kind of odd, like space boots or something. Do they have any meaning?
I like to use found materials in my work, and these objects add a bit more details and textures and colours into the cardboard landscape and make these little events stand out a little more.
No, I think it looks great. I mean, is there a story behind it? Is there a narrative? Or even a secret narrative, or?
Each event that this little character, it's the same character, kind of doing a journey throughout, and they're strange activities which don't really go together. The ideas kind of are generated from chance through cutting out newspaper words and the surrealist game Exquisite Corpse, and also looking at the cardboard and how I can add into that. And my thinking was that this character does all of these strange random events, and then ends up achieving its strawberry.
That's very good, very good. Oh, I think it's great. If you just scroll across with that, we'll just film it so you can get the full adventure. I mean, in that sense, it's like a storyboard in some ways, but also it's like something like the Bayeux tapestry, isn't it? Where everything happens simultaneously. It's not, you know, there's a sequence, but it almost meshes together in one single work. So it's the same figure, but appearing sort of, you read it going through through time, which is great. I think that's great. Well done, Rebecca. Congratulations. Now this is going to be tricky, isn't it? Carlotta doesn't want to talk, and I only know. I mean, I'm terrified what to say about this colour. You're really not gonna. I'm gonna get in trouble if I start talking about it.
Have fun.
It looks like a crime scene map.
Interesting.
I'm sure that you've not committed anything awful. I'm sure this is more you. You're not going to say. I'm desperately trying to see whether I can get her to talk here. What I do know about this is you've been engaging in detective work, and I believe this is a forest, or a wood, not a million miles from here. So if we start scanning through, and I believe that this is your own research, and I believe that the figure that is straddling the pentacle that you've created here out of a very sinister looking red string is a figure that you have been tracing or tracking, that I don't know whether it's a ghost or it's a spirit of the forest or the wood. I don't know. I mean, the overwhelming opinion I get from this is I just feel nervous. We're in sort of a Blair Witch territory here, aren't we? And it's rather strange in a way that you've got the juxtaposition between, actually, when I look out the window here, you might be able to see it, it's just the most beautiful sort of Kentish country. It's the very best of the county. And then here it's the same kind of countryside, but it's become dark and fearsome and scary. And I really wouldn't want to go there. And it's an interesting reminder of just how, these places that we encounter them during the day, they're friendly and nice, but actually you take a walk in a wood at night and you do start seeing figures like that. I mean, it's actually quite a scary experience if ever you've had to do that, which on occasion that has happened, where you get caught out, particularly in the winter where the sun sets and you do have to go through a wood to get home. You kind of wish you hadn't, because the slightest creaks and cracks do become terrifying, and figures like this, they go from being kind of these flights of fantasy to actually having a visceral effect, and it stirs up some of them. I mean, these Polaroids are particularly disturbing looking things. You almost feel like you can see something in them, like a disembodied limb is never a good thing to encounter, is it, in a wood? So there we are. So that's, you're not going to say anything to conclude? No? Okay.
It was meant to creep you out, and it did the job.
Well, you've succeeded with gusto. Well done, Carlotta. Congratulations. And now, Janet, we're into bursts of colour and effervescence. And what would you do you want to talk anything about your process or your use of colour, or?
Yeah, I'd like to give you this. Okay, because that's part of what I particularly
these
one.
are the collaging scissors, are they?
They are the scissors that I've used to create this one particularly, because it's cut out.
And they've got paint on them as well.
Well, yeah, because
the real thing.
I'm an artist, so
Artist scissors.
you know.
I was worried what was going to
let's
happen. I
have
think you better
paints.
take. So, in terms of your colour choice, how do you choose your colours, Jan?
They choose themselves.
Okay.
I don't choose anything. I just go for it.
Yeah.
This one is the cutouts. I paint an A3 piece of paper with acrylic paint, all different colours like stripes all the way down, and I do a bit of jiggling around, a bit of splashing, wait till they dry, then cut them up. That's the way I've been working at the moment, because normally I cut old pictures up. Well, I've run out of old pictures, so I've had to make make pictures to cut out. So it's all cut out.
Yeah.
This is about. I've tried to change it by putting in something different, and what I've put in is an opening here, which is, I think it's called through the door, and this is what's on the other side, and the tightness here of the colours here are actually opening up. This door there and there are opening up, slowly, coming up here, opening up, so that eventually this work will go and it would just be this other realm or other area.
That sounds great, yeah. I mean, I
But
love
that's-
the way you were getting that, you know, these vertical stripes. I think they're really powerful. And I think the way that you're making the different shapes and forms work, I think they're really sort of buzzing, aren't they?
Yeah, because if you stand back here, the one that really stands up to me is the pink. You'd think the red would stand up, but it doesn't. I think the pink stands up more than anything in that picture.
Yeah, it does. No,
But it wasn't placed there particularly. It was.
I mean, it's the freedom that you allow yourself to do this, which is the great thing, and I think that's what anyone who encounters this work responds to. Is that it's a kind of, there's a joy to it, you know, and the cutout, it reminds me of Matisse, and that was the absolute sort of idea. He wanted his work to be joyful. And people to engage with it, and it, to have that, even though it was hard won and it wasn't easy. I think that you're distilling some of that, and I think it puts a smile on people's face, doesn't it? It gives people something to think about. And
I think that it's an important part of the art scene, is having the colour and the using the colour when people really are scared of colour.
Yes, it's true.
They are
It is.
scared
No,
of
they
colour.
certainly are. Yes,
So-
they absolutely are. Yeah,
It's,
particularly in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something.
And this one here, it's called Tumbling Rocks. And again, I've cut out photocopy paper, dark photocopy paper, stuck them on, and then painted over them with acrylic paints. And what amazes me, which I didn't necessarily put in, was this river here coming through. And that's
So
to
again,
me,
you've got the
it's a
flow
river.
in this one, and it's going diagonal in this one. Yeah.
It's a river of life, you know.
Yeah, fascinating.
And there's a bridge, you see, they can come across the river and to the other side.
I think they work particularly well on these this really amazing system that just to explain why the works seem to be on these stretchers is that we weren't able to do anything invasive on the wall, so we couldn't put screws in, we couldn't put any fittings, conventional fittings for the painting. So very ingeniously, this idea of creating a standard kind of way of putting 2D work on, and in some ways they work really well with
I think
those,
it's
don't
brilliant.
they?
I think it's absolutely brilliant.
It's almost something to
idea,
think about in the future, actually, that to have your work.
It was such a brilliant
It's
idea.
really nice to see them freestanding.
I
like
thank the
that.
guys, all of them, for working so hard to do it.
I think it is, and I think we can talk to one of them now. But first, I would say, well done, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations on.
Really enjoyed it.
And actually, it's a very appropriate. So you are the last man, Stuart, aren't you? But
Last man
you were the person who was fundamental in getting these together. I mean, is there, before we move on to it, is there anything you can say about this sort of very ingenious way of showing 2D work?
Well, I think it was a group idea that we came up with, and it certainly solves the problem of fixing something to the wall. And it does mean that you can move stuff around, so you can adjust it. So
No, it's great. It's
it's cheap and cheerful.
Okay, you don't have to let that light in on the magic. It spoils it. But anyway, so here is your work, Stuart. So what can you know that it's there's a connection between the two pieces. Would you like to talk a bit about what the connection is between them?
Yeah, the narrative is this is a copy of a shopping list I once found in a park in southeast London. It's a very simple shopping list, one that I could have made. So I wanted to take something everyday thing and make art out of it. So I decided to create that shopping list in plaster. and I